Okay, here, observation. So revenue risk, this is currently seeks to minimize the risk of revenue reduction due to a reduction in water demand. So we talked about that in the introduction. And so that's why we do that calculation to determine what percent of your revenue is being generated by a fixed cost, because we want to promote revenue stability. So that's what that is for. In your case, it's documented there, 93%, 70% is variable. So on financial integrity, what I recommend you do is consider development of an asset management plan. In your case, it's typically for water and sewer, but y'all, the way y'all said, you could do a water asset management, sewer asset management, irrigation management, and administration. Just another Excel spreadsheet. And you probably want to get somebody that's dedicated to doing that and not have to do it. I'm sure everybody that's working now are already working 40 plus hours, right? So you probably have to find somebody that's dedicated to that. One source I've helped, actually it was smaller, a couple of ones I've done in the past, it was smaller than y'all, but it worked out great. And that recommendation was to go to either the high school honors program or the community colleges. Some of them have an honors program as well. Those are your best students, right? And then they all, as part of their curriculum, they have to get what's called community service hours. They have to get it as part of their grade. So you can work through whoever the teacher or advisor is to them and get them to work on a program like this. Most of them already know Excel. You don't have to teach them that, just kind of give them the basics on how to do it. They can do a lot of the data entry type of work for you. Most of them are highly self-motivated individuals already. That's why they're in the honors program. They get the benefit of putting on their college resume that I helped the district create an asset management plan. They get the hours as well, and you get the work done. Again, sustainability, the ability to become a self-sustaining entity without the need for any outside financial assistance in meeting both current and future needs. So one of the things we see Congress do over the last 5 to 7 years is reduce the number of grants. Because there are some entities that exist solely on grants, and so they started to wane America off of grants. They want everybody to be self-sustaining. Broader funds, so that's a current debate among folks, is should we go with cash, which is the asset management plan? And this is not something you can convert to a lifestyle. You have to start the process and go slowly toward a direction. So this is my goal, I'm gonna work toward that way. However, there is a case for borrowing money. If you're gonna do, it's like you have a capital improvement plan, you did your asset management plan, you have a big list of capital items, and those capital items say have a life cycle around 20, 30, 40 years, well, you can kind of match up the revenue need to debt service by getting a 40-year loan or 20-year loan that's going to match the life cycle. And the fairness part of that is that the people that are using the service at the time are the ones that's paying for it. So I don't say that that is bad or all cash is bad. You have to look at your own situation and see how what's best to apply for you. They both have their place. And a lot of people do a combination of them anyway. So, one of the things the Congress did after Merch lobbying, as a result of this infrastructure thing, was create something called WIFA, and it's now a national bank for the water and wastewater utility to borrow money at low interest rates. Similar to what Texas already had. Of course, Texas normally leads the way, but we have what's called the Texas Water Development Board. It's a bank that the legislature created years ago for the purpose of borrowing money for water and sewer, low interest rates. The money, you pay the loan back with that small interest rate, and over time that fund grows. It was actually the premier lending agency for a long time in the nation. As a result of that, it got recognized on the federal level, and now the Texas Water Development Board also gets funding from the federal level, Congress to the EPA to Texas, that goes into that same pot. And so those funds are set up to borrow money at low interest rates. So use them. They now have some grant elements too that they've added. Yeah, one of the things that happened as a result of Uri is that the water operators were officially recognized as first responders and critical staff. The governor's office started sending out letters saying, yeah, these people need to be able to move around in the end area, so the sheriffs don't stop these people. And some of them even have like little logos they put on the thing now. So.
And that's a rarity in our part of the country that, you know, we would have to worry about it. You know, like a lot of people in the freeze, they worry about water freezing coming out of the house. We worry about water freezing coming out of the land.
Yeah.
And that rarely happens here, but we know it can.
It can, that's right. It can. That's what we're planning for, is it can. Was it 2018? In 2018, Congress passed something called the American Water Infrastructure Act. And that act required every water system in the country to develop an emergency response plan. And it's a step process, a systematic process you go through where you identify the hazards that can happen in your area, and then in that plan you have a way to address it. And actually, I think for your side system, it was the assessment part was due June of this year, and then the final report is by December this year. So I talked about the fair rate structure. With what I recommend is going to 0 gallons included. You currently have 2,000 in the sewer, 0 in the water. We recommend considering going to 0 gallons in the sewer as well. And of course, as well as charging the base rates based on meter size or equivalency factor, not land use, commercial, residential, and all that stuff.
Based on the information that you got from us is going up from our base rate that's currently water and sewer, which is 58.29 currently. Going up 12%, or was that a 21%? 12%. Or it's 12.
It's 21% of the base
rate. Perfect. That dollar amount, 21% increase to 70.46.
Right.
For base water and sewer. Go down 0 gallons, you don't include any gallons on the sewer base rate, but bring both water and sewer down to the same cost of $4 per 1,000 gallons.
Right.
Okay.
And one caveat to that would be under the sewer, because on page, what page I'm on? Oh, 7, I'm not sure my page on here. Page 7, on the recommendation. See where we have sewer includes 2,000? Because that's what you're currently doing? Anybody see that? Okay, so what we're recommending will be just like water. Sewer includes 0 gallons, which means that 5597 would decrease to, go back to the sewer utility. So that new number would be on page 13. And it'd be 5107 versus 5597. If you went to the 0 included. So this is the calculation that includes depreciation. And then toward the bottom where it says percentage increase, so at the 4,000 gallon level, it'd be a 14% increase, 12% increase, 10%, etc. So if you're thinking that, okay, well, that's too big of an increase for our customer, then this is where you can say, okay, well, let's do 5% per year, or whatever you think you're comfortable with, 3% per year, or half this year and half the next year. But this is what you would need to fund the budget. Any decrease you have in that percentage or that dollar amount increase, then that's going to have a direct impact on your revenue stream, which means there may be some items in the budget you don't fund that year. There's a little bit, though, in your case, there's a little bit of cushion already built in contingency because we did not include the over 65 because we did on the conservative side. So if you did decrease the percentage, technically it's going to reduce your revenue, but in your case, it probably won't because that over 65 revenue is still going to come in. I think there was a couple other categories that was unique, fire or something. It's actually in here.
Yeah, we got the fire line.
So none of that's included. So you're still going to get that revenue as well. So what I always say is, once you adopt the rates, then about 6 months after you've adopted it, and you got real revenue, that's when you look at it again and see, is the projections coming true? Exactly how are we being impacted in the real world? With the water we're using and the revenues being paid. That's a known number, right? So you gotta get 6 months into it. You say, okay, we're either on track, or you look at an adjustment, or whatever the case may be. In your customer communication, you know, you wanna stress too that you haven't raised rates in 20 years. So if you take the increase, which was $21, I think, on the base, take that, divide it by 20 years. How much is that per year?
Well, in 2015, just to make sure everybody understands, in 2015, we went up on the base rate by $5.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they used 2015.
And remember, to my knowledge, the water hasn't changed as far as the $5.50.
The cost per thousand.
Per thousand has not changed at
So
all.
in that case, I would say we haven't raised rates since, last time we raised rate was 2015, which is 6 years ago. But you wanna be-
Let me back up even
Make sure
further.
you're accurate.
So, Mark's exactly right. So we did increase, let me back up. In 15, we went up, they went up $5, and then probably what was that in July, we went up another 12.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the base rate?
On the base rates only, yeah. Yeah, you're right, Mark, yeah.
We have not raised, raised it per gallon.
So that was July this year?
Yeah.
So yeah, in that case, I would definitely wait till next year before you
Implement this.
implement a new rate, yeah, because let them get time to sort that into their.
You see, like, what I see is that in a lot of our clients, they don't increase rates for 20 years, and they don't keep up with inflation or cost of living.
Mhm.
What I always kind of tell clients is just to look at inflation and cost of living, and if you can kind of tie your increases in your water and sewer rates to that, that's a pretty safe way to be able to continue to pay for your chemicals, because that's gonna go up, pretty much every year. I
Right.
mean, milk goes up, it kind of costs a living, and so with the percentage, that's what a lot of, that's a thing that you can look at. I know right now inflation's ridiculous, it's like 5%, but,
Well, that's what happened here. That's what happened to this district.
We had raised rates and.
Yeah, and you're not alone.
We hadn't raised rates in
Not alone.
20 years.
Very common, and so you really want to be looking at it at least annually, maybe not raising it every year, but, I mean, definitely 2 or 3 years is more. The other thing which has a great point about inflation is that the inflation rate in the water utility industry is far exceeding the inflation rate on the national average. Because a lot of these expenses and stuff and of course rates hadn't been updated 20 years, 10 years, now they're being updated, so our rate is a lot higher.
Well, like with inflation, I mean, it's just take chemicals.
Well, yeah, chemicals,
They
pipes,
just
all of
keep
that.
Chemicals just keep going up.
Labor, there's a big shortage in the water utility industry for operators and getting shorter because people are retiring, and so that less supply, increased demand, cost goes up. So that, all of that, so yeah, but you can either use your county, a lot of them have an economic development office that calculates consumer price index or inflation rate for your county. Some chamber of commerce offices do it as well. Or you can do your own study with your own rates, your own expenses inside and see what your inflation rate is. But once you get at a rate where everything, you have a sustainable rate, in other words, you're charging, then the inflation rate would be a good way just to maintain it. And that'd be part of the annual review, you do your budget.
We've calculated, from when we just increased rates until what the rates were, and it, what is figure like a 2 to 3%?
Yeah. Well, and what, districts like ourselves are in a position we're in right now is trying to play catch up to get that base
Right.
rate to where it covers our fixed costs.
Right.
Which is what this addresses a lot too, and then also to look at that inflationary rate, every year. Like this year particularly, our costs in chemicals and supplies is just skyrocketed. More so than in other years, so, you have to look at it. But, we've got a twofold problem, the way I see it, trying to catch up to get us where we need to be now, but also looking in the future.
Right.
Next year, the costs are gonna go up.
And then there's no revenue that's set aside for capital improvement or
No.
emergency. That's,
Right.
I mean, what the school.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we need to get to where we are also carrying a fund balance of 2 to 3 years, where if we do have a disaster, that we
Yeah.
need to access funds.
Based on your geographical location, my recommendation is 3 years of fund balance. Yeah.
And that's pretty much across.
So some of the more northern areas, we do last 2 years, and some of them even one. Depends on how old they are, if they're fully built out, that type of thing.
Right.
But, yeah, from where you guys are, 3 years worth.
Because you can't, when you're looking at a fund balance, you're not just talking about what if something happens to our infrastructure, our plants. You're also looking at, okay, I've got to pay these people that are, operating these systems and all, because customers are gonna be without things, so your revenue is gonna go down a little bit in a disaster. But you still got to continue to operate it.
And the other big cost is increasing that you have to pay for is the benefits, the health insurance and all that stuff is going up faster than the national average. So that's a direct cost to your labor cost as well.
Yeah, your employee costs are used.
Yeah.
In any public entity.
Right. And it should be, because that is the number one, we don't put them on the asset management table, that is the number one asset. It's the people. Without them, nothing happens. So, and then, like I said, once you implement the rate, and then of course you want to don't want to just implement it as well, you want to send out a customer notice, give them an opportunity to have what we call a rate hearing. There should be a regular board meeting, people for sure to talk about it. That's another opportunity to push out information on education, what are we providing you in this water rate, all these great values. And then at some point have an implementation date, and then 6 months after it's implemented, well, it'll be implemented, then the meters will be read, and the new rates will be applied. Then 6 months after that, some people do it in 3 months too, some time frame. See what the actual revenue projection is. Not projection, but actual revenue generated is.
See, it's working. Really good study, it's real good information. Changes the way that we do